Welcome, everybody, to the newest episode of the Live from the 575 Esports podcast. I'm here with, we'll start from my side.
I'm Kaze.
I'm Babchick.
I'm OTP Squeaks.
I don't even need to say anything. It's just Leon.
Say it, Leon.
I'm Burrito.
And what team are we a part of, Leon?
We're part of NMSU Crimson CS. Woo!
Actually, I'm part of the white.
Shut.
Okay, never mind.
Kaze is part of NMSU White from the Counter-Strike team. We have two Counter-Strike teams this year, which is kind of different because we're usually the smaller esports team. When it comes to just general esports, Counter-Strike isn't really that supported when it comes to collegiate. We'll start off with Burrito. Obviously, you're kind of the newest one out of all of us to this esports space. You kind of joined later than all of us. Talk to me about your experience in esports here so far.
I think it's been a super fun experience. You know, we had a great CSGO season last season. This one's off to a rocky start, but I think we're going to start locking in on the back end. It's really grown a lot since I've come here. I feel like, very passionate people and very cool community, and overall it's just an enjoyable experience so far. Plus, you get a cool jersey, so I do feel that.
He's only in it for the jersey, isn't that right, Leon?
That's what everybody's in it for, man. We come every year. It's like, do I get a jersey if I play? And it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe. Depends. How committed are you?
What about you, OTP Squeaks? You probably have been following at least the esports side of Counter-Strike longest compared to any of us.
Man, that's the nicest way to call him old ever.
That is true.
Talk to me about what it's like to kind of be a part of the collegiate space. I know Counter-Strike, at least collegiately here, didn't really take off too much until Counter-Strike 2 dropped. We had a little bit of Counter-Strike Go. Shout out Lemon and all those boys back in the day. But talk to me about what it's like to kind of be around in the know this time around.
Yeah, no, I think definitely the biggest difference, at least from when I was in college, esports seems a little bit more organized overall comparatively to where we started, because every single team back in the day had their own club. So StarCraft, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, they're all individual clubs at least the university I went to. But for here, seeing everyone under one roof, having some sort of organization, seems a lot more interesting. And you see that mixing of teams too, because I know a lot of these folks here play on multiple teams, not just Counter-Strike. And so being able to have different communities that you're part of, different teams you get to play with, different energies you bring in and stuff. And so definitely is one of those things where it's cool to see for sure.
Talk to me a little bit about switching games, Vibe Check, because you're kind of one of the newest Counter-Strike additions to our band of brothers. Talk to me about what it's like from switching. I know we were previously even teammates back when I used to play Siege. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so what's even crazier is that you came to my high school to recruit for NMSU and just NMSU Esports. So, and at the time I was a big Siege fan, and you said we have a small Siege team, but we see what we could do, and that pushed me even further to join us.
What high school was that?
That was Bel Air.
Oh, that's right. I forget you're from EP. That's pretty cool. But talk to me about the switch. Counter-Strike and Siege are not really the same game at all.
Yeah,
what drove your decision?
It was a big switch for me, especially since I was dedicated to Siege since year one. That was my game. I never stopped playing it. I had well over 7,000 hours, and to switch to a completely different set of game. It's still an FPS, but the rules, the competitive scene, and overall, just how a round just goes about. Everybody has the same util and all that stuff. I think it's just been a real encouragement to get better and understand a whole entire different environment.
Definitely. I mean, Siege is kind of an interesting esports, being that, it's probably one of the esport channels that doesn't really change that much. Kaze, talk to me about your transition to Counter-Strike. We're going to be sharing the microphone because that one just sucked. Talk to me about your transition to Counter-Strike. What made it? Or we can take that one.
I mean, in general, I remember playing CSGO very towards the end of its life cycle before it switched over to CS2, and I just had a lot of fun. I know we only really, because it was you and Leon maybe and Squeaks a little bit. We just played Arms Race. And that was my intro into the game. I'd play a little bit of Arms Race, and that was pretty fun. But especially switching over from a controller game, like playing Halo or competing in COD to a mouse and keyboard, completely different play styles and stuff. I've had fun. I genuinely find Counter-Strike is one of the more fun tactical shooter games in my opinion. So
I also have a question to that. What do you prefer, controller or mouse and keyboard?
Mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. What do you think has a more enjoyable gaming experience for you? Like, do you just feel? I feel like mouse and keyboard, I'm just more into the game. You know, controller, I feel like I can sit back, kick up my feet, you know, sip on some coffee. But mouse and keyboard, you gotta be in it. You know,
Yeah. Nah, like for real, I think I prefer controller. I mean, that's just also because I grew up playing controller games all the time. I didn't get to play a keyboard and mouse game until I got to college, and so I didn't ever see like a gaming PC until I came to the esports lab, and that was like 3 years ago. And so, growing up,
UNC status in the esports lab now.
huh?
You got UNC status now.
I got UNC status. That's crazy. UNC status is wild, but yeah, I think controller just because growing up PlayStation all the way.
Moving over to you, Leon. You're probably one of the only other esport people here that switched games to Counter-Strike. I mean, you still play Valorant, obviously, but it's way more similar to Counter-Strike than Siege or COD or any of those games. Talk to me about your decision to kind of really prioritize Counter-Strike nowadays.
I mean, as of right now, Valorant just lost all enjoyment for me. Competitively, it's I mean, both CS and Valorant are both in a rough spot as far as it goes with rank play. I feel like at least with Counter-Strike though, it's a bit more enjoyable. You're not necessarily as reliant on team utility since you can have the exact same utility.
Yeah.
And it gives you a little bit more to play off of in its own right, because it is such a mechanically like required game, whereas Valorant you can get away with some BS that you can't do in CS. And I mean, like we were talking about beforehand, I just swing because that's all I enjoy in Counter-Strike.
Leon special.
Leon special. All right, swing or be swung mindset. But I mean, it's pretty fair, especially whenever you're going from a game like Valorant where, all right, I can't just swing this angle without 10 pieces of util being thrown for me. It makes it a little bit hard, and you can get away with it, I'd say like 6 times out of 10, but with CS at least it balances it out. You're not worrying about, my team flashing me, my team's util, anything else like that other than, the occasion when Kevin's eating a smoke a mile in the air, blinding us.
Now talk to me. That brings me to my next question to you, Kevin. Obviously, I think you, out of all of us, have like the most variety when it comes to esports experience. Most of us all come from FPS games for the most part.
What are you talking about? Smite is a great game.
Okay, it's a third-person FPS game. I do the same thing when I play Paragon. But you have StarCraft experience. You have obviously League of Legends experience, even though you don't like to talk about it. But talk to me about what do you kind of see in Counter-Strike that you also kind of get from other MOBA games and attack sims like that?
I think once you get past the solo queue era of it, or like the solo queue mentality of it, the coordinated play in Counter-Strike is very, very, very impressive, especially when you see a lot of like multi-lane executes, right? Like people pushing up through mid, like underpass, mid, and the A execute going off at the same time. It gets really impressive, especially once you see like the pro level play coming down almost within a few seconds of each other, all the util landing, and then, you're causing a lot of disarray and stuff. So I think the coordinated play is really like something that I really like to see. But of course, besides like the individual skill expressions, when you see that 1v4 situation and end up clutching it, it's like this person who pulled it off is good, and most of the time it's not just like, oh, they just got lucky off of like a random spray transfer. There is like a conscious thought of like, I'm going to be doing this sequence of stuff, and if anything does go wrong, I'm going to lose here. And if they lose, right? Round's over. But if they win it, it's really impressive to see, right? And so it's really different compared to like where like League of Legends, you don't really see team stuff besides like the jungler role coming to support the lanes, and then the team fights later on in the game, right? And then, of course, in StarCraft, it's just a 1v1 game the whole time. Like, if you mess up your best of 7, you threw your own best of 7. So there's nobody you can blame on that situation.
Definitely. Switching over to you, Burrito. Obviously, you play a lot of games, not just Counter-Strike. You like to fancy yourself some Rainbow Six Siege. You like to fancy yourself some other FPS games. Tell me what made you want to...
Gambling does count.
Tell me what made you want to commit to Counter-Strike, because I'm pretty sure you have the talent to do Rainbow Six as much as that's stroking your ego
Yeah, I know.
and some other games. So what made you choose Counter-Strike? Have you just played it before a lot in the past, or what made you choose it?
Well, I kind of started my gaming path the same as Kaize, big controller guy, Xbox 360, Call of Duty, 360 no scoping people off the bridge, Final
That's him.
Kill. That is what I used to dream of doing in the pro leagues. But then, one day my buddy was like, download Counter-Strike. So I hop on my potato computer, running it at 60 FPS, and I was addicted, man. Like, the fact that I could not hit a shot made me angry, and it made me just want to be better. So then, wake up 6 in the morning before school, play 2 matches of Counter-Strike, go to school,
That's dedication.
run cross country after, get home at 6, and then play more Counter-Strike until, my wrist can't hit any more headshots. So, yeah. I did a little Rainbow, grind over the summer, and I was really into it, and I just, my back hurts already, as is. No, I'm just kidding. That's me. But no, I really like Rainbow. I do want to give it a try. Like, next season, I definitely want to hop in on there and just, take a shot at it, because I feel like Rainbow is just as fun, like, to outplay people out in them. And, like, do you, like, as Leon was saying earlier, like, in Valorant, the util is so, like, team-based. Like, if your smoke dude cannot smoke, like, you're bad words, right? Yeah, chalked. But, like, in Rainbow, it's not really dependent on that. Like, you definitely need it, but it's not as important as, like, it is in Valorant and stuff like that. So, yeah, your question was what again? I forgot. I started yapping. Next season I'll play Siege. Burrito Boy. Burrito Boy comes to the stage. Emerald 5.
Yeah, on Xbox.
Yeah. We'll play Siege. You got 2 Siege players next season.
2 cringe lords.
No, that's criminal cringe lords. I think saving graces is a.
Okay, fair enough. We'll talk to both you and Kaze this time, Leon. I want to kind of hear you guys' thoughts when it comes to playing in multiple games at the same time, because I know not so much you this time around, Kaze, and even you, Leon. COD season kind of just only goes through for the spring, just because the game comes out in the fall and kind of has to get ironed out before you play it. But the tournaments, the scrims, the practices is still very much like pretty serious. Like, if you really want to be like one of the top contending teams. Yeah. And same thing with Valorant. Valorant, I think probably even more so when it comes to the practicing part of it rather than the scrim part of it, because at some point Call of Duty just kind of plateaus when it comes to like the mechanical skill of the game. Right. It's just working on the teamwork compared to Valorant, where there's always new things you can learn. How has it been kind of like balancing the games? We'll start with you, Leon, since you're actually in season for your game.
I mean, as of right now, this season probably isn't the best example, since I've more so been playing Counter-Strike. I've been trying to play as little Valorant as I can until I am actually needed. So I'd say I play like once every couple of weeks, if then. Occasionally showing up to practices and just kind of going through more coaching. It is definitely difficult to balance both games out, just because, like you said, practices and major changes to agents or utility whenever you're going through and trying to work as a team gets a little bit rough, and that's kind of where the Valorant team's at right now. That's why they're going through odd reviews today, just because they need to start looking at their outside play rather than just their own individual. But I think if I look at last season, where I had teammates, I had both games, even if it was just the right.
You did have the same teammates though. You had
that's what I was going to say.
Dector.
The teammates transferring back and forth makes it a lot easier, because if you play one way in one game, you're going to play pretty similarly in another, and it just makes it super easy to follow along with them, especially whenever you're playing with somebody like Burr. Burr was always super aggro. He knew his util pretty well, and like no matter what, that's why he played KO. It's just the same thing as playing CS, so it was super fun. But I do think it starts to limit your ranges in one or the other, because you're having to transfer from
the skills, the mindset, the map.
Yeah, and I do notice that if I'm playing Valorant, I'm like, oh, dang, I'm pulling down like an AK spray on a Vandal. That's not going to work. So that's about it.
What about you, Kaze? Because last season, you didn't really play Counter-Strike, obviously, but you did play Halo and Call of Duty pretty intensely.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, like, what it's like to...
I'm still playing. We still play Halo this season?
Yeah. But, like, last season was probably way more intense than it is this season.
No, for sure.
How was that kind of like, being that it's both pretty much on native inputs? I know you switched to keyboard and mouse halfway through Halo, right? Mm-hmm. But talk to me about what it's like to kind of juggle those games.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was kind of... I had to switch inputs for Halo just because Halo I play at a such lower sensitivity comparably to COD that it was throwing off my muscle memory on my thumb. And like having to flick left and right in COD, I was underestimating how far they were. And even though aim assist is a thing and you just have to move until like it
picks
stops.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes down to like your movement and everything else in COD, like especially in the previous one, you were side canceling a lot, and a lot of the skill jumps and stuff to get to higher points and just overall moving around the map is a lot more than Halo, and it was just throwing me off. Like that was the main thing, and so switching over to mouse and keyboard for Halo was not necessarily the greatest of my decisions. I will not lie.
It's kind of difficult.
It is a lot harder to play Halo without a controller and without aim assist, but yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
yeah. Overall, it was just not a fun time. And that's kind of the reason why I was just like, if y'all need me, I'll be there. But if I don't have to play, I'm not going to play.
Not going to ruin your muscle memory,
Yeah.
for sure. We'll pass the mic over to Vibes. I want to talk to you, Vibes, because Siege, a game that you previously came for, doesn't really have that much movement. You literally just mantle on top of things, and that's it. While there is a lot of verticality, there isn't too much movement compared to Counter-Strike, which is a pretty interesting comparison because Counter-Strike arguably doesn't have that much movement compared to games like COD and stuff like that. Was there any sort of like driving factor for like improving your aim in Counter-Strike over Siege during that transition time?
I mean, yeah. So being able to aim down the sides, like that being the main part.
Yeah, exactly.
Shooting your gun, and then your whole screen is becoming your scope or whatever. In Counter-Strike, there is no scope. It's just you're just looking at stuff, and that's where you're shooting essentially. But point and click adventure, right?
Yeah.
And then the idea of that it's better to just tap and strafe rather than
Hold down
stand
and spray.
Yeah. I mean, within Siege, you have to learn everybody's spray pattern, right? Like Ash and
All the
Twitch.
characters compared to
Every
just a couple
single
guns.
character. And CS:GO, you just got to learn each individual gun, which is kind of nice. But I mean, it's still the same learning curve of learning that. Again, no, you're not wanting to spray. You're just having to apply more movement to your gunfight.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to ask you now, Kev, as our resident professor here, this is going to be kind of gassing you, but your reaction time has gotten a lot better since you started playing Counter-Strike.
He's gone from 2 seconds, 1.5.
but it's generally like increased. Like I remember playing Valorant with you. I remember playing like Counter-Strike when we first got back into it, or even Halo back when I was trying to make you play Halo. It was really slow, but you've played a lot. You've practiced a lot. Tell me about what the key is to reaction time.
Honestly, I don't think it's like my reaction time improving. It's knowing the game state. So I think a lot of it is just game knowledge. I know where people should be coming from and the timings of them coming around the corner. Like if you were to put me into Halo right now, I don't know the timings of it. I'd be like, oh, I'm ahead of this guy. I'm just going to round the corner and I'm going to be safe, let my shields recharge. But they're already on top of me again, right? You know, so it's a lot of it is like I don't shoot back because I don't know the timings of how fast people are navigating the maps and stuff. So I think the big thing for me really is just like once I learn the map and I know that people are going to be here, people are going to be holding these angles, a lot of it is just like, oh, you know, like I know what I'm doing in these situations now rather than having to think like, well, is he here? Is he default? Is he hiding here? And then when you're doing a lot of these conscious thoughts, it slows down your gameplay because you have to think. But now it's just like, oh, I know like I have to clear at least these 2 angles before I expose myself here. So then if I'm clearing it, I see someone,
You can
and I'm
react.
like, oh, I'm going for it, you know. So
You're
I think that's
thinking?
the big thing.
Are we supposed to do that in game?
I would hope that you do it from time to time. You think a little bit, but
The game isn't just W key? The game is just not W key everything?
I mean, I don't know. You see, when Burrito and I play, it's kind of just like
it's kind of brain dead.
yeah, he does a lot of the thinking for me, and then as far as it goes past that, I'm just you know, I'm doing I'd say like half of the aiming. That's about it.
Definitely.
Leon can't trade me. Leon can never trade me.
Hey, I try.
All right, well, we'll bring it over to Burrito because obviously, you know, he needs a microphone. When it comes to Counter-Strike esports in general, do you follow that much, like the esports competitive scene?
I honestly, I used to when I was a lot younger, but not as much now. I watch more like football and stuff. But yeah, I just like playing the game. I've been kind of getting back into it recently though. I watched some game the other day. I don't know, these people were playing against each other, and I was just watching them. It was pretty interesting.
That's mostly Counter-Strike.
Yeah. But I forgot the names of the teams, but it was definitely interesting. Like I like watching it because I do take a lot of mental notes when I watch, like how they're playing it, how they're approaching angles, and like how they're like these people are clearly better than me.
Yeah.
So like I like to take notes. So when I was a lot younger, I'd always watch like everybody hates Brax. Like I watched that video like probably 400 times since it came out. I love that video.
Okay.
That gets me just riled up. Like I'm ready to go. I want to be the next Brax. He's my idol.
All right. Well, we'll get back into the conversation when it comes to Counter-Strike eras after this short break. All right, we're back. Thank you so much, Viewsonic, for sponsoring us. We need more monitors. But you said that you watched Counter-Strike a lot previously when you were young. Do you have a favorite OG Counter-Strike esports team from back in the day?
I mean, you have to say Cloud9. Like, yeah, like
Okay.
that was their peak, 2016, 2017. Well, I don't know. I really liked, Stewie, Shroud, Automatic, Nothing. Yeah,
Tarek,
I
my
liked when
goat,
Tarek.
and Rush.
No, who's
my
the
goat?
opera though? Who's the opera?
Automatic?
Skadoodle.
Or
Oh, I
Skadoodle,
love
yeah.
Skadoo. I was happy when they won their major. I was like, hooray.
I respect that. We'll pass it over to Leon. Favorite Counter-Strike esports team of all time. Doesn't have to be old. It could be current. I have a current team.
That's easy though. I mean, same thing with Cloud9, man. I was the biggest
All right.
Cloud9 fanboy. You see when like Stu joined and everything, it was just like wow.
We're like, wow.
When Shroud was basically untouchable for the last ever major he played in, just like light work for them. I don't know. I feel like there's something whenever a team actually gets to their peak that we see in a lot of other games. Like, I mean, back in the day with Siege, you had Joystick and
Empire.
oh yeah, Team Empire. Team Empire fell off hard. Let's see. When we go back to Valorant, I mean, you've had ups and downs
Like
for a lot.
Sen, Fnatic.
Yeah, Sen.
I think Valorant is just way too young. There's only like 3 or 4 years that you can actually really call back on.
I mean, you can look back at it like that, but you look at teams like Loud, or even before franchising became a thing, and you had a lot of like open areas with. Oh man, they're game changers now. I can't remember what the team is called. Not T1. It's been a minute since.
TRX? PRX?
No, not PRX.
Is it
PRX
an NA
is
team?
franchise. Nah, it is I think it's EU team.
Fnatic, Vitality,
I can't remember. I know that they're not franchised anymore, but.
Ascend. I don't know.
Team Secret still has teams in all their.
Team Secret does have esports teams, but they're not in many franchise leagues.
Yeah, they're not in franchise leagues anymore. But I remember when Team Secret started coming up in Siege, and I was like, oh man,
That is true.
it's
With
looking pretty good.
Spoit, I believe, is on their team.
Yeah. Spoit now is M80, I think, unless
Yeah.
he dropped. But I mean, M80 is keeping pretty good across all boards. But I don't know. It really comes down to I never had that like major competitive drive watching the games. It just was like, oh man, this is fun to watch. It's fun to meme about and talk about later. I just kind of played for enjoyment, and then after a while, I was like, you know what, I want to get better. And I think that's honestly when I started playing Siege. I didn't really care in CS.
And then he got banned for hacking in Counter-Strike, but we won't talk about that past.
Real.
Kevin, talk to me about your favorite Counter-Strike era esports team.
Well, first I have to address a concern that almost sent me crashing out just now. When you said C9 winning their major in CS in 2016, 2017, I still think it was like 3 years ago. Not 8 years ago when they did it. Because I was watching the League of Legends C9 win their NA
MSI.
finals.
Oh, no,
was
yeah.
it, I think it was like NA finals, and they won the major or something like that. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
nice.
don't quote me on when they actually won the major. I just know they won it, and I was like,
Pretty sure it was
hooray.
2018.
I think it was 2018.
Still,
Yeah.
it's like I still think it's like 3 years ago, not 6. So I am still reeling from that bit of information. But back in my favorite teams, right? I'm trying to think, who did Forrest play on, or what did Forrest
NIP.
play? NIP,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I like Ninjas in Pajamas was like a favorite team to watch because they were really solid. Then there was like that one era with Navi had a short-lived one, but wasn't there another team that was like untouchable? Like Fnatic had a really good one. FaZe had a really good. Like
At the very beginning of
Australis-
Counter-Strike,
Australis
Yeah, it was
really,
Fnatic.
Yeah.
really good.
Watching those teams win back-to-back majors, or like the big majors. At
they won
least when
4 majors in a row. Actually, no. It was they won 3 and then they lost 1 and they won the 4th one because they just wanted to spite everybody.
Yeah, seeing that era where, because I know a lot of people don't like this, but I like seeing dynasties of teams because
This guy's cringe lord.
it's always one of those things. You like to see teams maintain their status, defend their titles.
I mean,
Whereas like nowadays, it's like we're seeing a new team roll through every 6 months or so.
Nick's over here talking about cringe with Dynasty.
right.
What was it? The Green Wall? What was that called?
Optic
Okay.
itself.
That's an NA dynasty. It's different.
It's not
If
different.
it's NA, it's worth it.
If
'Cause
it's,
when
it's
is
NA
NA
versus NA, basically, my brother.
Okay. There was some UK teams back then. They were top 12. But they were back then.
How many games make it to the finals? How many teams make it to finals
2?
for the like champs, COD champs?
Back then, 32.
Is back then 32?
32 made it to champs.
Man, how many was there? The last one that 12.
12. Yeah, actually, it was 8. It is 8.
Yeah, it's 8.
Oh yeah,
Because whenever we win, it was it Rocker?
I can tell you.
Half the teams are done.
Yeah. I
Rocker,
mean,
Seattle, Optic, FaZe, New York. There's 5.
Toronto.
Toronto. There's 2 more. I know for a fact there's 2 more.
The one that what's his name?
Seattle?
Was on, Seattle.
No, I said Seattle. Boston.
Oh,
'Cause
Boston.
Breach. Because Beans. I remember.
And Vegas? No, not Vegas.
Vegas didn't make it.
Carolina?
Mm-mm.
No.
They didn't make it.
I don't remember. But yes.
Isn't this a Counter-Strike?
Yes,
podcast?
it's Counter-Strike
No,
podcast.
no, we were
He
talking
brought
about
up Call of
Dynasty.
Duty.
We were talking about
Not me.
When it comes down to dynasties, yeah, the COD had their whole Optic dynasty for a while.
Of course, the COD player.
I would know.
I would know that too. I would know that too.
Uh-huh.
What did champs last year?
So you like dynasties?
I like seeing dynasties because I
only-
like people defending their titles, and it proves that if they win back-to-backs,
They're better than
they're
everybody.
good, right?
Yeah.
You know, I just don't like the whole back and forth, and especially nowadays. I think mostly I'm like cringing at this new wave of esports mentality. It's like you have one bad major, you cut half your roster, and you sign
That's
a
true.
new team. I'm just like, matey, you already spent the money. Just keep your team together for another like 6 months and see what happens, right? Like, you don't
I
have
agree
to
with
put up
that.
results every single tournament.
I mean,
away.
Right now, at least in Counter-Strike, we have Navi. They've won 4 major tournaments this year
Mhm.
alone, which is pretty big. No other team has won more than 2 besides Vitality and Spirit. So that's pretty big. In
And MSU
Counter-Strike.
Crimson also. Don't forget
MSU
about
Crimson, they
MSU
did have a
Crimson.
dynasty last semester.
First round knockout.
That is true.
That's what
Uh,
matters.
But yeah, in Counter Strike, there's only been a couple big dynasties. There's been Astralis. That's like probably the biggest dynasty. There was Liquid and FaZe had only the big 3 dynasties, and now Vitality. The way that I kind of describe a quote unquote dynasty, at least in Counter Strike, you have to win a Grand Slam. To win, I think it's 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 8 IEM trophies, and then you win a quote unquote Grand Slam. Liquid did it when Twist and Nitro and a couple other players were still on that team. FaZe did it when they had Nico and Guardian and Olafmeister. Astralis did it. They were the first people to do it. And I think if there is any more tournaments left, NIP would be the next Grand Slam winner. So that's kind of how I describe a dynasty in Counter-Strike. So at least that's for me. So you don't have a team?
Not
Specifically?
particularly. I just like seeing teams do well in general. You know, I will cheer for whoever's at the top, and you know, like I like seeing.
Bandwagon.
I know it's like bandwagony, but it's like
Also a Bills fan, by the way, just saying.
Oh.
They haven't won anything though, so it's okay.
I was wondering
We are
about the,
0
I
for
was wondering about
4.
the 20
0 for 4.
lanyards also. The 20 lanyards was crazy.
20 lanyards goes hard. All right, what about you, Vibes? Did you ever watch competitive Counter-Strike that much, at least back in the day?
I was very interested exactly when y'all were interested when
C9 won?
Yeah, exactly. And Astralis was really going through their, like, they were just winning every single major, right? But as far as a favorite team, even though we have all these great teams, and this is probably nowhere near the best team, but I have been a G2 fanboy since day one.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I think that just carries over from
Siege.
though. Like
Siege,
G2
that's
used to
right.
be like
The goats, Penguin, and
yeah,
all them.
dude, Pengu, but I will say
They fell off.
they did fall off.
Just saying.
But also, you look at teams like BDS back in the day when they were
They were good, but never good enough to win.
no, they were good, and then they beat G2, and then Pengu called them out for cheating, and They got false
Oh,
banned.
that's right.
Yeah, false bans came through. So I
Psycho.
will say, if it wasn't for that, G2 might have had a short-lived
Dynasty era.
yeah. But
true.
because of that, I mean, not really much you can do past that. But that's side news.
What about you, Kaze?
Hey man, everyone talking about C9. I'm just kidding. No, I have probably watched one game of Counter Strike ever.
Competitively?
Competitive.
All right.
I don't think I've ever watched any.
All right, get him off the mic.
Yeah.
Get him off.
Well, I'm slowly getting into it though. If I would say I'm slowly getting into it, I think there was one that was live on Face It right before one of our matches, and I was just watching it, and so I was like, damn. So this is how Counter Strike is supposed to be played, not all the solo queue bullshit that I'm experiencing starting out. So yeah, no, definitely now that I'm getting more into Counter Strike and watching the pro scene a little bit, even though it was just that one match, it's a lot more interesting. I think it was MIBR versus Energy or something. I don't know.
That is true. I forgot Energy have a kind of. Okay,
Yeah.
since you probably have the least amount of Counter Strike experience, what is your favorite esports team that you've watched in the past? Because you're also probably one of the newer people into esports out of all of us.
In all of esports, just
Yeah,
in
it could
general?
be any game. It could be COD. It could be
Oh,
Halo.
dude,
Whatever.
I'm not even gonna lie. When I first started watching competitive COD, it was Vanguard, and that was when Clayster and Hydra were on the same team. That
Outlanders.
was it Cold War? I think it was Cold War or Vanguard.
It was Vanguard.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But Hydra was ripping everybody, and I think that might have been his rookie year. I'm not sure, but he was just going through everybody, and he's still one of my favorite players to watch. And it was the same year that I also found the Tiny Terrors, Simpin and Beezy. So New York and FaZe were just on top, and now New York is bought out by C9, and all of C9 kind of left that roster, and so now it's just LAT who's bought out some of the top players in the league.
Shout out,
So-
Nate Shot.
Yeah, I know, dude. Nate Shot, whatever he did to get that roster is crazy. Scrap, Hydra, Envoy, and Dan Ghosty. Shout out Dan though. That guy went from college COD through challengers through pro.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
he
true.
ended up on Optic. Of all the teams that you could end up on going through the challenger scene, you got onto probably one of the best teams as a rookie. That is crazy.
It's huge.
But also shout out Optic, 6 second placed wins.
Don't
All right.
care.
In a row.
Don't care. Runner up.
6 in a row.
Runner up. We don't care.
Why are you talking about this game, man? It's Counter Strike. Why are you bringing
You
up
brought up other
You know what?
esports.
Let's
I didn't
talk
bring it
about
up.
the new operation.
the new operation of Counter Strike 2? Is not actually an operation. It's just an update. They have actually not officially called it an operation.
Rawr, battle pass.
That's pretty much all it is.
Money grab.
It's a money grab when it comes to the armory passes. I think I have the record for the most armory passes bought at this table.
How many?
6.
And you filled all of them?
No, I filled the first one and I bought 5.
All right. I want you to know. I bought 2 when it started. Halfway through both.
You haven't finished it yet, dude?
Dude,
Oh
I don't
my
play that
god.
much. I don't play that much. I'm a
I
terrible
only
person. I'm a
have
terrible
7
player.
stars done off the first pass.
You just don't play enough. There's no way you play enough.
I've completed only one pass, and I was like, that's it. I'm not spending my money anymore.
You know
I
what?
spend it on
I'm
cases.
I'm
I'm
proud
not
of-
spending that.
Never mind. I'm no longer proud of you. I was gonna say I'm proud of you for once limiting your money that you've been spending.
On Counter Strike.
Hey,
specifically.
I stopped buying cases and stuff once I got my glove and knife combo.
Wait.
I'm
Quick
now
question. How
happy.
many hours do you have in the game?
Maybe 200.
So you have less hours than dollars you spent in the game. That's
Yup.
crazy.
That's
We
criminal.
take that. We take those.
That's me with Valorant.
yeah. Haven't you spent like $2,000?
We're not talking about Valorant. It's
Wait,
Counter Strike
wait,
podcast.
let's talk
Wait,
about-
Valorant?
It's Counter Strike podcast.
Hey, you know what? He's got gloves, and that's all he
Counter-Strike.
cares about.
Podcast. Counter Strike podcast. What do you think about it, Leon, personally? Because you've seen a lot of iterations of Counter Strike, probably throughout the operations, because you played back in the day a lot.
I did.
What do you think about a new operation, the new quote unquote? It's not really an operation; it's just an update.
I mean, the new battle pass. I mean, it at least gives something to work for.
That's true. You have to pay
will
for it
say-
still.
I will say, up front, it's a little less than $20. I think, depending on your tax rates, will probably be
Yeah, it's
taking
probably like
you just
18
up
to
to $20.
$17.
I don't mind it. It is definitely kind of weird, especially when you compare it to older operations like when Wildfire was out and stuff like that. People were just kind
Riptide.
of just grinding through,
Clutch.
playing through the operation. I do miss those, like the
The mini games that they would put on the
minigame,
maps.
PvE stuff was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of where a lot of older CS players are like, oh yeah, this is kind of fun. It hints back to a lot of their times when they were trying to make a PvE game. But then you kind of get into some places like with Danger Zone whenever that stuff dropped.
I miss Danger Zone
I
so
honestly
much.
do
That was
not.
a go-to game.
It was
And
so
It
fun.
was hilarious when they did it because it kind of was like a.
It was just a jump on the
sandstorm. They
bandwagon.
They jumped on the bandwagon, made whatever money they could, and then didn't care. CS2 was their main focus, and all they were doing was just making skins look prettier.
For those of you guys that don't know, Danger Zone was Counter-Strike's attempt at a battle royale. But if you've ever played Counter-Strike and you know how the guns work, they do not work very well for a battle royale.
Not just that, you run into cheaters, you get wiped with an
Oh, yeah,
auto,
that's true.
immediately It's over. But
Yeah.
I mean, at the
Anti-cheat.
end of the day, it's another thing that's trying to get people more interested in playing the game again. And I mean, can't fault them for that. Although it is cash grab.
What do you think about it, Vibes?
This is awful because the premiere that they've ensued in this new CS2, like that was supposed to be their baby. A year has passed and we're still on season 1.
That is true.
It's
also true.
Top 20,000, like 22,000 or above, you are basically guaranteed to hit a cheater every single round. So even the most like pro players and any content creators have been just completely complaining about it. Like it's basically impossible to play, and the only real reason or way to play it right now is ESEA.
Face it. Yeah. And I think that's one thing we kind of saw Flom, because Flom hit, top of the leaderboard recently. The only way he was able to do it is 5 stacks, because at least the one thing Counter-Strike 2 will give you is an even 5 stack. If you 5 stack in like the same elo, you will get another 5 stack in the same elo. And that's pretty much the only way that he was able to hit like number 1 or even top side of the board. I think that's how any legit player that does it gets up there realistically. Burrito, question to you. You're probably the highest rated premier rating here. Just wait till I start playing some more. But you're kind of in like just slightly above the 50th percentile in all of Counter-Strike gamers. Talk to me about how is it pretty often that you get cheaters?
I've never experienced a cheater. I mean, if they either, I don't like to have the mentality like if someone's just out aiming me and I'm just getting absolutely.
Just call him a cheater. You blind call him.
No. See, that's the exact opposite. If I'm getting absolutely pooped on, and the people's like, "This guy's a cheater." I'm like, "Bro, if you think that, you're gonna lose already. Like you're in the head." So every time I play against someone who's just out fragging me, out shooting me, I just tell myself like, I just need to be better. So then I go back to the lab and I just work on myself, just because I haven't ran into a spin botter since CS:GO when I was in Silver 3 back in the good old days. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know. Like if someone's cheating. Like guess what? Like you're gonna get caught and like
whatever.
You're not.
You might get banned, maybe if the
yeah.
gods
But
decide.
it's like, at the end of the day, it's like I know how I play and I know my game, and that's all I really care about. If I lose a game, I lose a game. It's not that deep for me. I can always win the next one.
Leon, question for you. You coming from Valorant. Obviously, Valorant has Vanguard, a quote-unquote intrusive. I mean, it is actually just an intrusive anti-cheat. It's very, very rare that you even get a game with a cheater. And if you do, you get the nice red screen of death. Not on, that you're banned, but that player's banned. Do you think that, obviously, I think we can all agree that Counter-Strike would improve if it had something even similar to that. But do you think that it's necessary?
As far as it goes for like an intrusive anti-cheat?
Yeah.
So I will say, in the entire time that I played Valorant, which is probably around 700-800 hours, I've ran into 2 cheaters, and luckily enough, both on my team, and you just sandbag the fuck out of them as much as you can to try and like help out, delay the game, see if they'll actually get banned. It's rare that they do. I think as far as it goes for an invasive anti-cheat, it helps and it can mitigate, but there's a lot of things that it can't stop, especially whenever you start getting into the nitty-gritty, whenever you're going through and like spoofing hardware IDs or going through and using like external launch features rather than it being directly on the computer itself. It does have its own limitations. I think CS would benefit from it, but at the same time, Valve doesn't care about the anti-cheat per se. It catches whatever cheaters it catches, but they're going to make more money off of them buying the game, buying Premiere, putting in skins and stuff like that. I mean, it's an entire ecosystem, whether we like it or not. On the opposite side of it, you have the legit side where you have, buying skins up front, buying the game, playing through Faceit, ESEA, and on the back end you have custom servers that are run by private orgs that are just having HVH, stuff like that. I think there is for those who just care about HVH, who just enjoy scripting, I feel like there's a decent side to it that Counter-Strike offers and can offer, especially over whenever you're working on non-Valve or VAC servers, which is why they exist. But I feel like them running rampant through ranked, especially with the way that some of them play, and especially some of the configs that you have to run in order to keep it legit, it should be more detectable. Valve should deal with it, but they're not going to.
Definitely. I'm gonna ask you, Vibes, because you've played Siege before. Siege has a similar problem with Counter-Strike, where the anti-cheat just sucks. But it feels like at least for Rainbow, when you get a cheater, it feels really bad. It really sucks. Like, it pretty much like mitigates you from even playing the game. I mean, the same thing can be said for Counter-Strike, depending on how bad the cheating is. But going from one game where the anti-cheat is not good to the next one kind of makes me question your sanity. How do you kind of like rationalize continue playing?
So being back when Vigil came out and all that,
White noise.
White Noise, that's what it was. I was actually a diamond player, and during that era, it was basically guaranteed. And when you say it's deliberating, like the game just stops from round one, and you're getting a spin bot running outside. You can do nothing but hide in a corner and wait for your death.
Mm-hmm.
In Counter-Strike, I mean, you've seen with Flom, like there's sometimes where like the other guy's cheating, but Flom will still pull out a win with the 5-stack. And so
Just a bad cheater.
it's like a shit cheater, but there is no shit cheater in Siege because it's like
It's pretty easy.
It's so like the cheat is so overdone. Like they have God mode essentially. They can fly through walls and
You're just sitting at the top of the map, spin botting, just bing, 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 bing.
Exactly.
That's round.
I just
Soon
think
as
cheaters
fun.
were funny. I'm just PUBG cheaters.
PUBG cheaters were pretty funny.
Harry Potter in cars, picking up streamers, and just flying around the map doing dumb stuff. I miss that.
those were good cheaters, man.
They were good cheaters. We'll pass the mic over to Kaze. Kaze, you played, or I guess you still play, a couple different games where the anti-cheat's there, but it's not quite there. Halo anti-cheat doesn't really exist all that well. They recently added the easy anti-cheat, but even then it's like not that
It's
great.
like crashing.
Yeah, it crashes your game more than
games on PC than it helps.
yeah. And then Call of Duty recently had Ricochet back in Vanguard season. That's the first time they brought it in. Have you ever played against like a hacker in like regular COD lobbies?
Yeah, I mean it's come up a couple times. Well, there was this one that was actually spin botting, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. It was a control game, and it was on high rise, and he went on top heli and just started spinning, and it was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie, but like overall, yeah, it does ruin the experience, especially trying to like grind out the game and try to get better. Like, especially if you're having a bad day, and it was just like, damn, like it's getting worse. It's just so bad. But no, like when it comes to like COD, it never really like
Doesn't really come up too often.
it doesn't come up as much as you would expect.
And it's pretty well hidden too.
Most of the time, it's people using a Cronus that you run into, and that sometimes can get you banned, but it's really hard for, I guess, Ricochet to detect that. And essentially, the only way you would know is if like their like recoil control is like completely on point, and that's just really hard to do. You only really see that kind of thing in Pro League, and if someone else is doing it, it's like, why aren't you in the league? Yeah. Like if you're shooting me from my spawn all the way to your spawn on high rise, on like quite literally like the tiniest of peepholes, like there's no way you shouldn't be in the league. Like you can tell that that's a Cronus.
For those of you guys who don't know, Cronus is essentially just like a USB adapter. You plug it into your PlayStation. It has a an input for a USB. You just plug your controller in, and it pretty much gives you like no recoil. You can pretty much mod it up to whatever you want, which is unfortunate. But Kevin, we'll bring it over to you. Coming from games that also League of Legends cheating isn't that prevalent. I mean, it does happen, but now that they've also kind of done Vanguard, it's not that much of an issue. But other games like StarCraft in the past, have you seen like hackers? What were you gonna say, Kaze?
Cheat in League.
Cheating in League, surprisingly.
I'm so confused.
You could do it.
There's a couple of things. There's fog of war removal, so you get information on the jungle.
The whole
at
map.
Time.
Oh, okay.
Or you never miss a skill shot. Like it'll read. Or
It'll be like aim assist.
Okay.
Kevin, hold your mic just like this, my brother.
Or you see the frame
There we go.
perfect. Just they'll turn a skill shot, right? Like
Gotcha.
perfectly.
Okay.
So
I was
it's
like,
very
what?
rare. Occasionally, like when someone is, and you're like, this motherfucker hit me, and sorry, my
okay.
bad. I still remember. There's specifically one game I still remember. I specifically took a spot fog of war to recall. That's no one usually recalls there, and then right my last second as I'm about to go back to base, I see the Xerath ulti and then one, and gets me. I'm like, bro. And I know there wasn't any wards near me because I scanned walking into that spot. So I know they didn't have vision on me. Blunk, one. And I'm like, bro. So, but in those games, StarCraft, like the only other time, same thing, just fog of war removal, so they know what build you're doing, and even then you can outplay a worse player if you just can control your army better.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, when it comes to like hacking in like Counter-Strike and stuff, it's if it's blatant hacking and it's like goofy, like the one game we ran into with the guy, we had the hack off between us, or not between us, but between the two players.
Mm.
That's just funny because we're just there to run bodies in front of our hacker so they can kill their hacker first. So that's funny and goofy. But when people are trying to hide their hacks and they're like playing seriously while also hacking, then it gets a little bit weird because it's like, oh, this person is like, I can hear gunshots going off, and then all of a sudden it's like they finally get to that corner of the wall that finally they can spray through, and I'm getting a headshot through that. I'm like, oh, this person doesn't even have like textures on, so they know they're shooting at me, but they can't shoot through that wall until they get to the corner, and then that one bullet comes through and headshots you. Then you're like, that's a little annoying.
As someone who has hacked before, Leon, let's hear about your perspective.
That's crazy. That's crazy calling me out like that.
He's a hacker, guys.
No, so I remember back in the day, like old CS:GO, just before they implemented rank changes. My ex roommate actually was the one who I ran into online that was cheating, and being a young player, like, what the hell is this? I remember I didn't even pay for my cheats whenever I was doing it. It was
Someone that gave it to you or something?
Basically, they bought an account for me and then just sent me the login credentials. And I was like, all right, because you get into a high enough rank at that time. I think it was once you hit Gold Nova Master, basically, you were just going to be running into cheaters. Anybody LEM and above was usually cheating. Legit botting normally. And it just kind of became boring, kind of where Kevin is at. Like, you run into one or two games where it's like, oh, yeah, our cheater, their cheater, whatever. But when it's every game and you're just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to sit AFK, it gets really boring. So I know whenever I started, I did a lot of HVHing. And, I mean, depending on which software you're using, and this is why I think it's funny for Valve. Some of the softwares that I would use, I could straight up detect what cheat the other cheaters were using. So that way I knew, oh, okay, this is the weakness. They're using aim junkies, or they're using aimware just like me, or they're using XYZ private cheats, stuff like that. And XYZ is an actual cheater.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. You run into a lot of people who are legiting, especially, I can't think about it now, but I've seen it in Siege, I've seen it in Val, I've seen it in CS, and it just kind of becomes annoying, especially after you've cheated before. You know what to look out for. Like certain plays that you're like, that's a little goofy. You must have had a little bit more information. I don't know. I feel like it does ruin the experience for a lot of people, and especially whenever I was doing it back in the day, it was just straight throwing. Like, I didn't really care. And you just kind of run it down and give the other team the win. 90% of the time I was just trying to derank. I didn't really care, just giving elo. But there are those two games where you'll run in full 5-stack of cheaters, all spin botting, and I think I have a screenshot on my main account or on my secondary account that got banned, of just like 8 people on my screen. All you could see names, you can see the cheat that they were using, and everybody was just looking down and backwards. And it is the funniest thing that you will ever see, and that's where you don't see spin botting anymore. It's super detectable. But I think the funnier things that happen and stuff that is a lot more common now is just like accusations.
Yeah.
Because that happens at least, like, I think I'll play like once or twice, and they get thrown out.
Kevin will be like, yo, pretend you're hacking, just...
Yeah, but I mean, to that end, I've also like seen enough where I'm like, oh yeah, this is how if you're just like straight up locking through a wall, this is normally how the cheat's going to detect it. So it is funny to do sometimes, and I have had, especially the other day when I was playing Siege, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can hear this dude's at, all right, and just like full on 180 back, and then just quick peek. I don't know.
Definitely.
But it just depends.
We'll wrap the conversation up. We'll pass it over to Burrito. As our resident gambler here, you spend a lot of money and you lose a lot of money more. Actually, you lose more money than you lose.
Never lost.
Talk to me about like how Counter-Strike has influenced your worldview when it comes to essentially wasting money, gambling. I mean, I'll talk about it too.
This is such a bold concept. I'm so confused. What do you mean by that? I think CS:GO does require a lot of gambling in game though. Sometimes you got to gamble a site. Like, where are they going?
Okay, I think we both know what we're talking about.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't spend $2,000 on skins. I don't know if that's a trusted source or not. I mean, I buy skin. I'm like, it looks cool. But I don't really care. I just want to use the gun. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't like the basic one. It just looks boring. I also got scammed already once, so I don't want to spend a bunch of money on skins again.
How'd you get scammed? Talk to us about it.
Well, you just don't
Don't trust the Facebook Marketplace ad or what?
It was an Instagram ad at the time.
Damn.
This guy was like, I'm buying skins. And I was like, bet. And then he's like, you want to send them? And then I'll just pay you back. And I was like, cool. Yeah. Then I send him, and then he's like, all right, bro, hop on this Discord and we'll talk. I'll get you my PayPal numbers. And then he just made me watch him play Rust for 2 hours. It was the
No
worst experience.
shot.
I was so bucked, bro. I was so hurt. I'm like 17 years old, about to go to college. I'm like, I need this money, man. I'm trying to go to college. And he's just all, oh, man. And he was playing with his buddy in Rust. It was awful, awful experience.
So you watched him play Rust for 2 hours,
Honestly was just
waiting
pretty-
for him to give you your money.
I was so fired up, bro. I didn't mind. I was just yapping in their ear the entire time, just nonstop talking. You know, like it's worse than I am now. You know, in the chat. Imagine it's 10 times worse. Also,
I can't imagine 10 times worse than what I'm listening to right now.
yeah, chill out.
Leon, talk to me about your addiction to skins and
My
cases.
Gambling addiction. It has only taken $1 million of my life. No, I mean, gambling in all forms. It is highly addictive, but at the same time, you have to be willing to lose whatever you're putting in. So that's kind of where I'm at with anything, whether I'm gambling in Vegas or, in California, gambling with my mom.
Nice.
I usually I'm like, all right, this is my limit of what I'm willing to spend and pay out of. And at the end of the day, if I'm putting in $50, that's like 5 hours of my life that I'm putting in. So I'm like, yeah, 5 hours of my life. Is it worth the trade-off? I don't know.
Definitely. Kevin, talk to me about gambling. I know you're probably like one of the least gambling people that I know. Recently, the horse races.
Ooh,
I've seen you put some money in, but talk to me about does Counter-Strike make you a better gambler or a worse gambler, you think?
Worse.
Every time I drop money into CS, I'm always disappointed. So
Fair enough.
the only pink skin I got, I bought from the marketplace.
Okay.
I've spent maybe like $300 on the game opening cases, and I got a purple. It was a P90.
Aren't you
Nice.
guaranteed
It's-
something after like $500?
You're not guaranteed anything, but statistically, after like 480
cases,
yeah,
you should get a
480 cases, you should be guaranteed to get a knife.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not like Apex where it's like, oh yeah, you count down after 900 of your loot boxes, you get one heirloom.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So every time I do so, like you've seen it occasionally, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna open a couple cases, and then I'm just
You're
feel a
so
little
disappointed. They're never good openings. I feel so bad for you.
But like for me, I know like on the complete other side, TCG gambling. Though.
All right.
No,
Yeah.
you spent too much money on cardboard.
I dropped $100 today on cards.
Today?
You don't even play Magic anymore.
It was the Doctor Strange counter spell.
That's even
Don't
cringier.
Doctor
You could have
Strange
taken that
counters,
$100. You could
I
have put it
know.
into a gambling website and turned it
Yeah,
into
I'm
like
a scared.
250 or lost it all. Same way that you've already done it.
I turned $50 to $1,000, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Wait.
You gotta walk them through how to
You
spend
gotta,
money
yeah,
then.
Yeah.
You gotta teach
How to
this man.
scam poor people. All right. Vibes. Talk to me about your relationship with gambling. Do you do it that often or
What do
not
you mean?
really?
He gives us all his cases to gamble.
That is true. That is true.
I do give all these guys my current cases, but back when I was in high school and me being an idiot, I acquired a good amount of cases from some friends, and it was about 100 cases. And one night when my parents were not home,
No shot.
My mom left her wallet.
Mama
there.
Vibes, if you watching right now, turn the camera off.
I went and bought every single key for all
Damn,
those
please
cases.
tell me you
That
got
is
something
at
good.
minimum,
And guess what?
$250.
Minimum $250. And I didn't get a single purple, pink, or knife.
Hey, but here's the best part. Let's see, if you get all blues, that gives you enough to trade up 10 times.
That is true.
And guess what?
That is true.
Guess what? They locked my account because I bought so many things in a row. And guess what? For the last 6 or 7 years, I lost every single item I had because I had to reset my account.
Damn.
That just like
That's
turned
so
really-
sad.
that's
You know, we're all
actually
kind of
really
like
sad.
laughing, and then
I lost it all.
You had to rob his parents for that money, bro. Talk to me about you, Kaze. You are one of the worst defenders of gambling next to Leon and fucking Burrito over here.
Hey,
Talk to me about it, bro.
All right.
I got the hours to back it up.
If
Fair
we're
enough.
gonna be like, well, it wouldn't.
Be
I wouldn't
100,
say
be
it's
100, that's
gambling. It's, well, it really depends because I used to do Rocket League trading when that was a really big thing.
Scammer gets scammed.
Nah, dude, it was. I would buy like a lot of those loot drops sometimes and try to get like a titanium white octane. But at the time, those were like $100, and so I had like 3 of them at one point. And so my Rocket League trading right before it got all shut down, I was able to sell some of that. So I'm up.
So it's inherent. It's inherent that from the the Rocket League, you just put money in a Counter Strike.
Well, the thing is with Counter-Strike, it's the same kind of idea with Rocket League too, but like at least like I'm putting in money into skins and like having the fun of doing it, but if I do get something good, I'll have the opportunity to sell it. It has like monetary value to it. Unlike Valorant where you spend $90 on a skin that you're borrowing essentially. That's just on your account.
But here's another thing, Kaze. If
It is a really big if. And I think maximum I've only put in like $200. So yes, technically yes, I've put in more money into Counter-Strike than I have hours.
That's a
My
crazy.
brother's put more money into his peripherals than he has on any singular game or games combined.
If we count all of my COD hours, I have maybe.
How many of those
5K.
COD hours are on PC?
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
There we go.
PC COD
got
hours
him.
probably.
It's probably got a K.
Yeah, maybe
probably
like
okay.
1,000
Across all of them?
across all of them.
I mean, there's only been like
There's only
three,
been
4
3 or
games
4,
on
yeah.
PC.
Say 2019
MW
Cold War.
Well, he didn't start
Vanguard.
till
I
he didn't start till
until
MW2. So
MW2.
it's been 3 games.
So it's only been the 3 games. Yeah.
I still think that makes it worse.
Yeah, it does make it worse.
Hey man, we don't count about all the skins that I bought in COD too. So we're not talking
Ooh,
about
that's
that.
gross.
We are
That's
not
gross.
talking
Okay, yeah.
That's
we'll-
money
we'll
straight to
drop that one.
Blizzard,
We'll
bro.
drop that one. That's the literally
money
the
straight to
exact same
Blizzard.
thing of what you just said for Valorant. To rent a skin.
To rent
to
a
rent
skin.
the skin
On an
that
online service that will
transfers-
close in a couple years' time. Anyway, we'll close the podcast off. We'll start over here with you, Burrito. Pass the mic over to my boy. Burrito, who inspires you to be the player you are today?
Me, myself. I inspire myself. I want to be the best. I sit there when I get after every match. I go home and I watch myself play that entire match, and I take notes on what I did right or wrong and how I could approach it better. I inspire myself. Also, Shroud.
People like Burrito, by the way, have mirrors right above their bed. Go ahead, Leon.
Wait, what did you say?
He's going to bed and like.
Hey man, I have a picture of me on my wall because I'm the only one who doesn't let me down. Except when I do. But no, I mean,
Who inspires you to be you, Leon? Who
in all
inspires you to be the gamer?
seriousness, it's a mixture of everybody I play with, and then just my own competitive drive. I mean, like when I'm playing with Burrito, and sometimes Burrito's just like, "Come on, Leon, why don't you put in more time?" It kind of sucks seeing me putting in all these hours, and I'm just like, you know what? You're right. I don't really care, but you're right. So I mean, I do want to grind and get better, but I feel like it's not just in one singular game. It's just mechanics all around. So just jump on aim labs every once a month. Be like, oh man, how bad am I now?
Check the ratings, check the little up and down
yeah,
peaks.
Look at see if I deserve dopamine today. That's about it.
True. What about you, Kevin? Who inspires you to be the gamer and person you are today?
So this comes with a little anecdote in context to build it. So back in StarCraft Brood War days.
Try not to
Used
talk
to-
about StarCraft challenge.
I know.
It's the only time he
peaked.
peaked at a video game. Just let him talk about it.
That's where it's all began, right? That's when esports started for me. But there used to be a Korean player named Jae-dong, and they called him the guy who only loses once. So there was this era where these Protosses, this player named Beast, who came up with the Protoss build that flipped the entire Zerg versus Protoss matchup around. It went from Protosses losing like 54% of the time to them winning 54% of the time. And then Jae-dong lost to it once, and then he never lost to it again. And so that mentality of like never losing to something more than once has been like sort of my mentality. I'm like, if I've seen this before, I'm probably not going to fall for it again if I've seen it. If I've never seen it before, like someone playing a really weird, like ratty off angle, I'm like, okay, well, you got me. And then we try to get it back. But,
I felt that. That's actually valid.
That's
That was
hard.
valid. Yeah.
That's hard. What about you, Vibes? Who inspires you to be the gamer you are today and to keep improving and pushing yourself?
As far as me, I have basically watched every content creator you could think of, from CS to Siege to League to StarCraft and a bunch of other stuff. But I really don't have one person to look up to, and
Just let them goof off, bro. Finish up.
But as of right now, it would probably be Flom because he has such a carefree
Mentality about the game.
Yeah, even though he's the top.
Fair enough. What about you, Kaze? Who inspires you to be the gamer you are today?
I think this is gonna sound corny as hell, but it's literally just playing with y'all. Like, just legitimately, like, I enjoy playing video games, and at the end of the day, like, it's still fun. And when you turn it from this casual side to the competitive side, I don't want to be the reason that everybody's losing. I hate being
pretty
the
good
reason
motivator.
that this team of players is losing because I'm messing up. So the drive to want to be even better or at the same level and being the reason we're winning is my drive. And I can go for any
Respect
video
that.
game. So
That's hard. I respect
Iron
that.
sharpens iron.
yeah,
I
real.
feel that.
That's hard. Well, that goes ahead and concludes this episode of the
Vic,
live.
what drives you? What drives you?
What drives
Your
me?
mom, your dad, Rita boy.
I think
It's
Did
me.
Dad pick
I
you up
know.
from school?
I hear him yelling my name
You
out
know?
all the time when he's at home. Leon.
there's these 2 cats that I live with. I do it for them. Yeah,
That's real. That's real.
I do it for them.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Make sure to follow all these lovely guys on social media. If they have social media, it'll be linked down below.
6'4" nonchalant redhead. That's what I am.
No way.
Make sure to hit subscribe, hit that like button, and stay tuned for more episodes, the Life in 575 episodes. Bye.
Peace out, gang.